Chapter 2. Gold. There was just time for the Jewish children to get washed before the lunch bell rang, and it was the dining room that we saw them first. There were a few of them sitting at each table, so we could all have a chance to get acquainted. As we filed in, Philip said, "What's the fuss about? They look just like us. Nazis are crazy." "What do I smell?" chanted Henry, sniffing. "Leek and potato soup." He smacked his lips and rubbed his stomach. "My favorite. My, I'm hungry." "Yes, I am, too," said George. "I collapse," announced Philip, imitating a rag doll. I said, "There is not nearly enough to eat with these ration cards. I wish it was like before. My older brother told me all about it. He said that before he had so much to eat, he sometimes could not finish. He actually left something on his plate sometimes." "Don't make up stories," whined Denise, holding Louis by the hand. Louis started to jump up and down. "I want to eat up to here." He pointed to his throat. "Up to here. Just once. Just once." "Quiet," said Henry impatiently, turning to us. "Look at the bowls. What is the matter? There is even less in the bowls than normal. Something is wrong." "Children," called Sister Gabriel as we reached our plates, "you've probably already noticed that there is less soup than usual in your bowls." "Let me explain. We have 10 new boys and girls, and they have no ration cards." "Can they get them tomorrow?" asked Philip. "No," said Sister Gabriel, "they cannot. They can never ask for any ration cards, because if they do, the Nazis will find out where they are." George said, "How can they eat without ration cards?" "They will die," said Henry matter-of-factly. "That's right," went on Sister Gabriel, "unless we share with them our own ration cards. That's what we're doing today. That is why there is less soup for each one of us. From now on, the slogan is we all eat, or nobody eats." We sat down in silence. We did not feel like talking. We could tell by the very sound of the spoons that everybody was getting to the bottom of each bowl pretty quickly. Too quickly. Henry sat across the table from me. He was counting the spoonfuls and swallowing very slowly to make it last. 9, 10. He sighed, and I heard him mutter to himself, "Perhaps 3 more." He threw a glance at his new neighbor, who had already cleaned his bowl. He was a small blond boy, doubled up in his chair, and he had large dark circles under his eyes. "What's your name?" asked Henry in a low voice. Arthur," said the boy. "I'm Henry. Look, Arthur, do me a favor. Eat the rest of my soup." Arthur shook his head vehemently. Henry compressed his lips and said, "Please. To tell you the truth, I hate this stuff." Quickly, I put my hand on my mouth. I was going to scream. Didn't I know how fond of that soup Henry was? What an appetite he had. Arthur's eyes became very large, as if he was about to cry. And before he could say a word, Henry had emptied his bowl into the others, and breathing hard, he sat back in his chair, looking straight in front of him. I was speechless. Presently, Arthur finished the soup. Then I saw him fumble in his pocket and slip something into Henry's hand under the table. "For you," he said. "A woman gave it to me on the road last night." "No," said Henry, and he shook his head too vehemently. "Yes," went on Arthur, very quietly. "Can you guess what it is?" He could tell that Henry was trying to feel under the table without looking. Suddenly, I saw his face relax and beam with pleasure. "Thanks, pal," he said. Of course, I was dying of curiosity, and I was so glad right after lunch that Henry came over to me in the yard and said, "Now, we are really Egyptians, aren't we?" "Is that why you gave Arthur your soup?" I asked. "How did you guess?" Henry smiled. "Oh," sneered Denise, who had overheard us. "Henry just wants to show off. This morning he was the one who tried to sell goods to the Holy Family. To sell, and now, did you by any chance get myrrh, frankincense, or gold in return for your soup?" she mocked. "Mind your own business," barked Henry. "Anyway, you had no idea if I was going to end the game this morning if I had been free to do so. Besides," he stopped and seemed to have made a big discovery. "As a matter of fact," he went on slowly, "I did get something back. Gold. Pure gold." "Oh, show us, show us." Denise and I both cried, but he would not. It was only in the evening, when he was already somewhat dark, that Henry made a sign for me to follow him. And there, behind a big tree, he showed me Arthur's gift. I put my 2 hands on my chest. It was a small piece of chocolate. We had not seen any for months and months, and surely Arthur had not either. It was a priceless gift. I could not possibly ask Henry to let me have a taste. Such a precious thing. After all, it belonged to Henry. He had earned it. So my heart leaped when I heard him say, "Wet your finger in your mouth." I knew right away what he was up to. I did. Then he took hold of my wet finger and ran it back and forth on the piece of chocolate. "Suck your finger now," he said. And I did. I kept doing it for a long time after I had licked all the chocolate off. Henry bit a piece of the chocolate about the size of the pea and ate it. We did not speak. He was very quiet. Then Henry said, "If we are careful, it'll last a long time." He said "we," so it meant he was thinking to let me have another turn sometime. But I did not let on at all for fear he might change his mind if I did. Yet I had to protect our gold as much as possible, and I said, "Henry, aren't you afraid it will melt in your pocket?" "Didn't think of it," said Henry. "Of course there is paper around. Nevertheless, you were right. Besides, Sister Gabriel might find it, and there could be all kinds of questions. Guess we'll have to eat it right now, right here." "Never in your life," I said, gasping. "It's a treasure." "What about hiding it somewhere? A place only you and I know about." "Right," said Henry. "Come on quickly before anyone misses us. I know a place." We raced behind the house. There the hill starts to go up abruptly. It's covered with a thicket, brush, and is very stony. It is real wild country, and I would have been afraid to go there at twilight if Henry had not gone ahead. We came to a brook that trickles down the slope, among rocks and boulders. Henry stopped and bent over. He took out a slab of rock from beside the bank. This left a cool, clean, sandy hole. In it we laid the piece of chocolate and closed the safe against the slab. I whispered, "How are we going to find it again?" "Look," said Henry. "It just faces the triangular stone in midstream." "Henry," I promised, "I will never come here without you." And after that we ran back as fast as we could. But all of a sudden, Henry grasped my wrist. I stood still. As I did so, I heard a noise such as we had made when our feet kicked the stones while we ran. Only this time we were not making it. Then it died out and we went down, Henry not letting go of my hand. Back in the schoolyard, as we were going into the house, I said softly, "What was it? Perhaps just the echo of our own footsteps?" "No," whispered Henry, slowly shaking his head. "I think it was somebody."